Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Tasha's Tale. Today we have my lovely friend Shamila. Shamila, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Natasha's lovely friend Shamila. Assalamu alaikum, how is everybody?
So you and I have known each other for about 6-ish years.
Yes.
When I first moved to Manchester,
Yeah.
we kind of bonded, didn't we? For our love for, I would say for our love for travel, really.
I'd say travel and just generally going out.
Yeah.
Getting out.
Yeah, getting out. So and we've kind of consistently done that over the years. And I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to thank you, because I feel like you have consistently been there for me, especially at the times that I've needed you the most. Practically, I will always remember your kindness at Niall's first birthday, your kindness when Ria was born, your kindness when it was Ria's first birthday, because those kind of moments when I'm like putting something together, like for their birthdays, I felt under so much pressure to do it, and you were truly there for me in every way, shape and form, and I will always appreciate you for that. And coming home after giving birth to Ria and seeing how much effort you had gone through, that will always stay with me. So thank you so much.
Oh, that's honestly, that's so sweet, because I feel the same way towards you, that you've been there for me. And you have such wise words. Like, I can come to you. I think I text you random things like, what would you do in this situation, and things like that. And you're always there for me, and you always have been. So I'm so glad we met.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. You're also one of my Instagram friends.
I am.
Do you know, I wasn't going to mention this on this episode because I thought people are going to think I've got a problem. Like, I'm like, hey, this is another friend from the gram. But I think the reason for that is that when I was moving to Manchester, any connections that I had, I kind of held on to them. Like, alhamdulillah, luckily, we got on like a house on fire, which is why we're still friends like 6+ years later.
I think you moving to Manchester and being so proactive, knowing that you were coming here with nobody around you and finding your people, has made a huge difference in your life. And that's the type of person you are, because there's some people who move and they struggle because they don't, in a sense, or aren't able to put themselves out there like you did. And you know, we're all glad that you came into our lives as well.
You're so sweet. Yeah, I think sometimes I cringe at the fact that I've done that I've kind of actively gone out and sourced my people. But then there's a part of me that thinks, you know what? No, like, why on earth should I be embarrassed about it? Because that's how I have found my tribe. That's how I found my people.
Yeah, and I also think as you get older, it becomes more difficult to find people and make friends. You really have to go out of your way to go to places and put yourself in situations where you will meet people, and it's not always easy.
No.
And I think, you know, people meet their husbands, their wives are on the gram, so why not friends?
I mean, nowadays, I would say majority of the people that I know have probably met each other through like the online dating world, or the online world, really. But we've just been for a really nice meal, haven't we?
Yes, lovely meal.
If anyone's listening to this, you need to check out this new place. I will link it afterwards on the episode. But I wanted to find out a little bit more about traveling, because I'm not going to lie, like, I was following you on Instagram for years before moving to Manchester.
Right.
But I was inspired by the fact that you, as a South Asian, Pakistani kind of heritage female, were going to all these places abroad. Like, for me, that was unheard of like 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think with South Asians, the way especially South Asian girls, the way we grow up is that you go on holiday with your family. It's not really encouraged to go, or during our time, it wasn't as encouraged to go with your friends or go do a solo trip or anything like that. It was like, yeah, you can go when you're married.
Yeah.
ask any Asian girl, they've heard from their mother or father that you can go when you're married. So you either go with your parents or you go with your husband, you know, and I'm not married. And over the years, a lot of my friends did get married, and then they start going on holidays with their families. And it was a conscious decision that, okay, do I just sit here and not go abroad? Or do I make people, meet people, and still live my life, even though I don't have the type of people that I what would consider to be going abroad with, like, you know, in our culture, like either your family or your husband or anything like that. And I just think I enjoyed it. So I went out. I think my first ever time was with a company that I was working with.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a company I was working with. I had every afternoon was free. So I looked at things and I just went out.
How old were you at this point?
Early 20s.
I won't give away your age because...
No.
Yeah, I won't give away your age, but so early 20s was you get the first taste of
travel outside of family or anything like that. And
where was it that you went?
So the first time I went was Amsterdam. So it was with work. It was on a course, and I just started looking at things and thinking, oh, I'm going to sit in the hotel on my own. I might as well go out and make the most of it. I think on one day I went with, she wasn't a colleague, she was someone else who was on the course from another company. I went out with her, we explored, and we even went to a different city. I don't remember the name of it now, but we did, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I thought to myself, why am I not doing this more often? I loved it.
Where did you go after Amsterdam then?
After Amsterdam, I think it was Paris.
Oh, right.
Paris was like, and I know people talk about Paris now because it's either
I've heard it's a bit of a dump.
Yeah, it's either considered incredibly romantic or a dump. I think it is very London-esque in a way.
Okay.
But it has, for me, who loves history and old buildings, it's got amazing churches. And no matter where you go, it's what you make of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely. I think for me, it's like going to a restaurant, isn't it? You can go to a restaurant and be really disappointed, or you could go there with, like me and you, we've been to so many places where it's about the company, it's about the ambience, it's about what you get out of it. I think traveling's very much the same.
It is, and I'm just going to give a reference. I remember going to a restaurant once, and one of the girls I was with she wasn't happy with the service, and she let that, and it wasn't even that bad, but she focused on it, and she let that ruin her entire evening with us. And it's the same thing with travel. It's what you make of it. You just put yourself out there, do the best that you can, enjoy as much as you can, and hopefully it works out.
So when you went to Paris, who was that with?
That was with a friend of mine called Shamila.
Oh, okay. So how long did you go there for?
I think we went for 4 days.
I've never been to Paris, you know.
4 days was probably a bit much, but we did spend one day in Versailles, which was absolutely amazing. So I think with Paris, again, it's what you make of it. Because we were so young, I think Paris appeals to you more then.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes when you've travelled across the world, if you've been to like Thailand and exotic places, and then you go to Paris, it might feel a bit
underwhelming.
Perhaps.
I think that's my fear. However, I would go just for the pastries. Because I'd imagine the pastries are absolutely delish.
And you can make the most of it the way you plan it. And even like, I know it's like typical touristy, but the Eiffel Tower is brilliant.
It is, yeah. It's iconic, isn't it?
It's iconic.
Like, everyone wants a picture underneath the Eiffel Tower pointing towards it, or whatever.
When the lights come up, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah. Do you know how many countries you've been to?
No, because I try not to count countries.
Oh, Shamila, I was hoping you'd have a mad figure.
I mean, I could probably count for you now, but I just think...
Go on, give us a flavour of what countries you've been to.
Gosh, you're going to put a lot of European countries, Japan... Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines,
Kenya.
Oh gosh, I loved Kenya. I've been to Spain, Italy, all those type of places. So
I would say you are truly one of the very few Pakistani girls who are so well travelled.
See, I don't feel that way sometimes. I think I have a friend who I travelled to Kenya with. She's so well travelled. She's South Asian as well.
Yeah.
And she's literally constantly travelling. So, and Do you know what? And I'm going to say this, it's not about how many places you've travelled to. It's the fact that you've put yourself out there and you've made the most of it, and you've gone in and made an effort to learn and experience new things. Even if, say, you went to 10 different countries in in Spain, that's different. Because we know, like, living in England, like, going to London and going to York.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Two completely different things.
It's just the dialects, the food, the way they pronounce of different things. Even the scenery and the landscape's completely different, isn't it? When we went to Morocco, we did 10 different cities. Yeah. And every single city had something completely different to offer.
Yeah. And so there's this idea that I know there's some people who, like, they visit one city in one country at a time. They'll spend 3 days there. There'll be other people who will spend 1 month in one country.
By the way, I'm that loser who does count the countries because I get such a buzz from it.
And that's okay. I think, you know, when you follow a lot of travel accounts on Instagram or just general in social media, there's this rules on how to travel.
Yeah, you're right.
I think the only rules that really apply are the ones where you are respectful of the country that you're in.
Yeah.
Outside of that, if you want to visit Cyprus every year for 15 years, you do that. If that's what brings you happiness, you do that.
You know, I used to think, what kind of madness is it going to Cyprus year in, year out? Yeah. However, now that I'm a bit older and travelled a little bit more, I can also appreciate that for people, because I think for me, travelling is an escapism. Yeah. It's a way to be transported to a completely different world, and that looks different for all of us individually, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, and I'm not insulting anyone, but sometimes when I see videos of like these hotels in Benidorm, it seems like that would be like my worst nightmare.
Same.
But at the same time, if you're somebody who's working your 9 to 5, 5 to 6 days a week, you save your money and all you want is a bit of sun, you go do that. Yeah. If that's what brings you happiness, you go do that. For others, it's more profound. They want more out of the travel, and you do that. There's no wrong or right. There's no one should be looking down on each other. It's just whatever's best for you. Be happy.
And I think it's a total privilege anyway in the first place to travel. I feel so lucky and fortunate that we've been able to go and travel. What would you say was your favourite country that you visited so far? Like one that just has that special place?
Do you know what? It was Japan. It was. And, Kenya. I don't know. It was Japan. Because
I think Japan, because as an outsider, as your friend, I feel like when you were in Japan and when you came back, the way you were showing me pictures and like that enthusiasm and love was very much like there.
I fell in love with it because it honestly seemed like a place I could live.
Really?
Yeah, and there was culture, but it was so modern as well. And obviously I'm not trying to kind of romanticize a country, because every country has its issues and whatnot. I think for me, it was, I got there and I just felt at home immediately. I felt so comfortable. I felt happy. Everything I could do there, it just was for me.
Was it easy to navigate your way around the country?
Yeah, their transport system, especially in the big cities. In the smaller cities, it's a bit more difficult when you go a bit rural. But even their underground system, their tram system, whatever it is, was absolutely fantastic. By the end of it, I knew it like the back of my hand. I was like,
so when I go to Japan, you're gonna be my little tour guide. Perfect.
Definitely.
Before, when we were eating, you mentioned that you were cycling in Vietnam.
Yes.
Do you know, in my head, I could just picture it, and I thought I can visualize how beautiful that must have been.
It was absolutely beautiful. It was this village and it was just like, there were the bikes there, you could rent them out and just go around on a cycle. So we did it. So we went all around the village, and it'd been a while since I'd been on a bike, so it wasn't easy in the heat.
It hurts in all kind of places.
It hurts in a lot of kind of places when you've not done it for a while, but I felt free.
Yeah.
There was just this feeling of freedom. There was nothing, no one, like I wasn't checking my phone.
Did you know much about the Vietnamese history?
Yes.
because I didn't know, but since like reading some books and doing a bit more
Yeah.
research, it's the one country I would absolutely love to experience because I feel like it's been through so much.
I think when I visit a country, I'm one of those people who will buy and get every single book about it, learn what I can, and then I tend to go. I mean, I'm a bit of a history buff in a way that I love history.
Well, I didn't know that.
Did you know?
No.
Oh my God, I love history.
Well, you need to inform your friend here.
No, I absolutely love history,
Oh,
and
God.
it was. I even did it at A level, but I dropped it because they were making us learn about the world wars again, and I wanted world history.
Yeah.
I remember having this huge
Let's not be
conversation.
selective about it.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to learn, and I had a look at the curriculum over the next 2 years, and it was none of that, so I ended up dropping it. But I got it from my dad. My dad knew a lot about history, and he'd always tell me things, and I'm just intrigued in it. So I read up a lot about Vietnam or even Japan, wherever I go.
Yeah.
I just love reading up before I go there, just so I'm well informed about what goes on there in the country and the history.
That's inspired me because I must admit, I am one of those, I just want to go and take pictures and enjoy the food
Yeah.
and listen to foreign languages and get lost in cities. That's my version of exploring a new country. But actually, that's a really, really pivotal thing to be doing, is to research on the history and actually maybe even learn a handful of most common words in
Yeah.
that language, which is something I've never done. But when I went to Poland last month, I did think, like, that's so rude and ignorant of me to have not even thought of how to say thank you in their language.
Yeah.
I've just taken for granted that they're going to speak in English with me.
I think we do that. I think coming from an English-speaking country, we assume that no matter where we go, we'll find someone who speaks English.
Yeah.
And that's how we just speak with them. And it does work, but I think it's also unfair.
Yeah, I agree. And this was the first time in all the places I've been to that it dawned on me. I was like, oh, like, I should at least be able to thank them, and it showed them my appreciation by knowing their language.
Yeah. And I always try to learn a few words, even though I forget them the minute I'm out of there. And Google Translate, all of it. And I try my best. We can try our best.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we can't learn every single language. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but it's the way our lives are. We can't, but we can try our best.
Yeah.
And I think that's appreciated.
Tell me, what's the top 3 countries that are on your radar that if you had a magic wand or a really healthy bank balance that you would want to visit?
I'd love to explore more South America.
Yes, please.
I'd love to just go to like Colombia, Costa Rica, just in Brazil. I'd love to do that. That's one thing.
Mexico, Peru.
I've not done that.
Chile.
I'd love to do that area.
But I feel like to go to South America, you'd have to go for a few weeks.
You'd have
like,
to.
You wouldn't go all that way and spend all that money for a week or 2 weeks.
And I think the way the countries are, you'd have to keep going back there. I don't think you could do
all in one go
at all. It would have to be a long, long trip if you wanted to do it all in one go.
I'm with you on that one. Anywhere else?
And the one place I'd like to go just to sit in the sun is the Seychelles. I've not been. Yeah. I just like go sit on a nice beach and just. But I'm not a beachy person really over there.
I think you'd be bored out your mind if I'm honest. It's like Maldives, like that's always been on my radar just because everyone seems to go there. But I do think, if I'm being completely honest and transparent with myself, I would hate it. Like maybe day one would be lovely because I'm sitting reading a book, but afterwards I wouldn't be getting my steps in.
Yeah. You'd want to do
if
something.
I'm on holiday and if I walk less than 20,000 steps, I'm fuming.
Yeah. It's not a holiday, is it?
No. You were saying something when we were eating inside, something about your own history in terms of your mum and dad. Tell me a little bit about that, because I thought that was so beautiful about your dad and your mum saying this.
So I'm Pakistani. However, my mum's parents are from what's today's India, and so have my dad's parents. So when the partition happened, my mum's parents already had 5 kids, and they, crossed the border like all our, a lot of our families did. And my granddad always wanted to go back to India. He didn't have this huge Pakistani patriotism, this new country that had been created, because I think for a lot of the elders, once Pakistan was created, it was like, it's still the same. Our problems aren't solved. This new country was supposed to be better, and it's not. It's everything's still the same. And for someone like my granddad, who had been brought up in India, that was his home. He constantly told like his children, like my mum, all about this, which means home. It means home in in like Punjabi or Urdu. And he constantly referenced that. And same with my dad's parents. And both my parents were teenagers when they came to England. So they didn't have this huge Pakistani patriotism in them, as I said, until a cricket match was played.
Yeah.
And so we've not grown up with that either. Even like, obviously I'm proud to be Pakistani, I'm proud to be British, but I'm not nationalist in any way.
Yeah.
And I think that helps you appreciate other cultures and other places as well.
When we were having that conversation inside, it just made me wonder, is it somewhere you would like to visit? India?
I would love to visit India.
Have you ever been close to going, or?
I've not. I know people who are, again, similar to me, of Pakistani descent, who have had trouble getting to India.
Really?
Yeah, through the visa process. I know some people who have been successful. I know some people who have been declined several times. Oh. And I would love to go, and I'd love to go to my ancestral homes, I guess, the cities where my family come from. Because, I say I'm Pakistani, but actually all my ancestors
are from India.
Are from what is today's India, and going back through there. So it's tough to have, for me, I find it difficult to have a strong ethnic identity. So I often identify myself as Punjabi more than anything.
Yeah, which in its essence is what you are, isn't it? Because Punjabi, whether you're from Pakistan or today's India, is very much the same in terms of language, in terms of personalities, because Punjabis are, known to be loud and proud and using their sense of humor any opportunity, isn't it? So I totally
that's what I consider myself more than anything. And I just think, man-made borders, that's what they are. I think prior to all of these lines being created, people moved more freely.
Did you, who was it who was saying to me that borders were only created, it's quite recent when borders were created. I can't remember exactly, so don't quote me, but
it depends
Google
what country.
It, guys.
Yeah, Google it.
But it was a lot. It wasn't as kind of historic as I thought it was,
A lot of it was when, especially during colonialism, when a lot of European countries went to other places, it was to say, this area's mine, this part's mine, this belongs to me, marking their territory and separating out the countries. And that's what created borders, especially in places like Africa. Yeah. A lot of those countries, the borders made were based on France having this part, England having that part, Belgium having that part. That's what they were based on. And, even with Pakistan, you had the border that was created between Afghanistan and Pakistan, which is a very contentious topic, so we won't get into that. But that was literally someone drawing a line, and there was cities split in half.
Well, if we look at kind of Kashmir, which again we won't get involved in, but it's very similar, isn't it? So I think it's such a shame, and I think marrying someone who had a Pakistani passport, I think that's when I realised how privileged we are in terms of having access to travel. Yeah. Because people who've got Pakistani passport or African passport or I don't know, whatever else, other passport, you are not able to travel as freely as we are. We're lucky enough to just be able to buy tickets and go.
And just go, especially to places like Europe that is just right on our, we're part of it, but on our doorstep. Whereas in Pakistan, a lot of it's the elite people that can travel as holidays, as a free time rather than be traveling for work.
Yeah.
to find work in other countries. Your average Pakistani person, a lot of them might not even have a passport. And
You're
same
right.
goes to similar countries like them.
Yeah. I was a bit interested in knowing about European countries,
Okay.
whereabouts you've travelled in Europe, because that's one area that I've not really travelled to many European
Right, okay.
countries. I think I've only ever been to Spain, Italy, Portugal.
Well, Spain, Italy, Portugal, France. One place I would recommend highly is the Balkans. Bosnia,
Really?
Montenegro, all around there. Bosnia was absolutely beautiful.
When did you go there?
Oh, a couple of years ago now.
Oh,
I did.
That slipped off my radar. I know you went to Croatia,
Yeah.
which is obviously in the region nearby.
So we drove it was a bus, so we crossed the border from Croatia to Bosnia.
Ah, okay. So I do remember. Yeah.
You do listen to me.
I do pay attention.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Montenegro is stunning, and Kosovo as well.
And in Bosnia, obviously, that's got a history of its own, and it's
That
so
has.
rich in history because the genocide in Bosnia was very recent.
It was very recent, and in parts of Sarajevo, literally, you turn a corner and there's a graveyard there, and if you look, it's all very young people, especially young men, died around the same time. It's really heartbreaking, and I went to a museum there and I just stood there crying.
Yeah.
Because it was just so emotional to think that I was alive. I was younger when all of this happened and I had no idea. It was so heartbreaking to know that this is what went on.
I think when you go to museums, it really brings things to light. When I went to Auschwitz last month, I wasn't expecting it to be... I mean, obviously I knew it was going to be really upsetting, but some of the things that you see really kind of shakes you up a little bit to think how many hundreds and thousands and millions of people over the world have been impacted by wars that they were not in any control of. Like, it's always the people that have suffered. Anyways, that got a bit dark.
That got a bit dark quick, didn't it?
Let's lighten up the mood here. Cuisines when we travel abroad. Come on, let's talk food, because we love food.
I do, but I have to be honest, I'm not the best with cuisines when I travel, and the only reason
Shamila, you are the one friend I can confidently go out and eat my heart with.
I think because abroad there's not always a lot of halal options, because I only eat a certain type of meat. I eat halal. It's not always something that's available, and a lot of the traditional foods in these places is very meat based, so you don't get it. But I always do as much research as I can to find, like with Japan, I found amazing restaurants. Oh, it's the best beef I've ever had. I'm not a beef person.
You're not a red meat person?
I'm not, but this beef was absolutely delicious at this restaurant. It was really weird. Well, they made us take our shoes off and you had to sit on the floor.
Oh, I love that.
It was fantastic. The food, it was like melting in your mouth, everything. But I researched that because I know for me it's not going to be, I just can't always walk into a restaurant and eat what everything's there, and sometimes the veggie options are not the best for you anyway. Yeah, so do your research beforehand, and I would say Japan was one of the best places. Turkey had lovely food.
Oh, I love the Turkish cuisine.
One of the worst, and
you could say, yeah, of course,
the Philippines.
No.
It was...
What?
I don't think it's known for its food.
I quite like... Isn't it just like noodles and rice?
No. The Philippines is very different. And also, finding vegetarian food there was difficult. A lot of the time, places we went, they gave us our dishes with meat in them. Even though on the menu, it was like a vegetarian dish.
Yeah.
And I remember at a restaurant asking somebody, and he was like, oh, vegetarian just means vegetables.
Plus the meat.
Oh
my goodness.
One night we got a pizza, and it was like a Pizza Hut. We got the veggie pizza and it came with chicken on it.
Oh my! Do you know, I don't know any other Muslim person who's been to the Philippines.
So that one place where we found good food was in El Nido, I've forgotten how to pronounce it. But that was because there's a lot of foreigners who have opened restaurants there, and so there was a lot of veggie places available. the falafel at this place was absolutely delicious. I remember it. It came in this bun with these amazing chips. It was absolutely beautiful.
You know what? One thing that I really enjoy about traveling is sometimes, like, you might not eat the cuisine from that country, but you can eat something completely random, like a falafel in the Philippines. That's absolutely gorgeous.
It was delicious. And there was a lot of fresh fish around there as well, so we got some good restaurants there. But generally, on land, there wasn't inland. There wasn't a lot of for me personally.
And obviously, when you've travelled, you've been solo travelling. You've travelled with work, with friends, with. Have you ever been with strangers, like a random group?
No, not a random group.
Have you not done that?
No, like I've met people there.
Yeah.
I've met people there. I've met one of my friends who introduced me to was finding people. So I've met locals, like in Vietnam. I met a local girl there and she showed me around for a day. That sort of thing. I've done that sort of thing.
You're so humble because some of these conversations we have not had before. I'm so proud of you.
I just don't think I'm the best conversationalist.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Stop being so humble. I didn't even know you'd been to Vietnam. Did you go to Cambodia?
Yes.
Oh, see?
Cambodia, so
I'm going to make you write a list.
I'll write a list down for you so you can have it. And I think it's just the way I perceive travel. It's just about the experience I had there. And, you know, if you can meet local people, it's brilliant. They give you such a different perspective to life there and history. Like even in Kenya, it was the 2 security guards outside my hotel when I was leaving. I got talking to them and they started giving me all this political history about, what the climate is like at the moment and how they were feeling like their voices weren't being heard at the moment. It's so interesting. So, don't knock it back. And I think sometimes people do. I went to this, it was like a jewellery making place in Nairobi, and a lot of the women there were people who were, single mothers, and this place employs them. And at the end, I went to give the lady who'd given me the tour a hug because she was so lovely. Oh. And the guide who was with us, he was like, oh, people don't normally do that. And I was thinking, he was like, oh, thank you. And I was like, he was thanking me for giving...
Yeah, because Shamila, that's really kind and thoughtful. And you'd be surprised at how people are not kind and thoughtful.
But they don't experience that regularly. And that made me so sad that he had to thank me for doing something which I think should be just standard human nature between two people. Like, you've connected, this person helped you.
I do think there's something about human connection when you're travelling. But you can go to a country and not speak to a single person, a resident of that country, or you could go and really mingle and integrate as much as you can on a holiday. When we went to Morocco, we had a driver and we spent an afternoon with his parents in their home.
That's brilliant.
And that will always be one of my favourite memories from Morocco. Same with Sri Lanka, same with Indonesia. We always kind of found drivers to take us, but that was a way of us getting an insight into the country, and I would highly recommend anyone to do that as well.
Definitely, it does. I've had a few experiences like that, and you get to know not just about them, their families, and what it's really like to live there, because we just get this glimpse. And sometimes you go there and think, oh yeah, I could live in Japan. Yeah, that's easy. I could live in Indonesia. That's not or Malaysia. But you don't understand that you've got this romanticized version of it because you're only there seeing the good side, the tourist sites and whatnot. So it's nice to speak to somebody and find out what it's really like, because even with the Philippines, it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
The scenery, the waterfalls, and the people were lovely. And then when you speak to people, like, I don't know if this is still true as of now, but at the time, even things like contraceptive was banned. Yeah, because the ruler at the time, I don't know if it's the same person now, is very devout Christian. People have to follow Christian beliefs.
And they didn't have access to what we would class as basic
as a basic need. And
that's a car in the background because we are in a car park.
And so so you have a lot of the NGOs that go there bring contraceptive on the sly kind of thing, and that's why you have a lot of people who have a lot of kids there.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing, when I was there, they had signs up in the hotels basically, I think it said not our girls, because they have a lot of foreign men come to places like the Philippines. I think we're going dark again, but I'll be quick. Who get with very young girls.
Oh my goodness.
And there are families who are in dire poverty, and they will, engage in that in order to put food on the table. And people take advantage of that.
And you can see that really, like, it's like Indonesia is overpopulated. There's people everywhere. There's so much poverty there.
A lot of people have probably seen it in Thailand.
Yeah, you can see the desperation. What would be your parting words that you would give to someone who's a bit afraid to travel, or someone who goes on their all-inclusive 7 days? What would you say to people listening?
I would say just make the most of it. I think it's not easy to say one thing. I think what I will focus on is South Asian women, if that's okay, who, maybe they're even on their own and they want to travel, but they haven't. Go for it.
Yeah.
There's never going to be a right time. The more you delay it, the longer it will take to do. It might be scary at the first time, I always say, look like you know where you're going and what you're doing. Whether you're at an airport, you're on the street, if you look confident, other people will treat you that way. Only you can make the best out of your own life. And if traveling is something you want to do, it might not be for you in the end, but you don't know until you try.
At least
give it a go. Go to the most random places, or go to the most tourist places. There's no right or wrong answer. Just do what makes you happy.
And you know what, Shamila, that's what I absolutely love about you. The fact that you have been given this life and you're making the most of it. You're traveling, whether that's with someone or on your own. You're doing you, and you're exploring, and you're taking it all in your stride. I love that.
Nobody else is going to do it for you.
No. So
only
do
you
it for
can
yourself.
Yes.
And we had a few more things to talk about. However, I think we need to get you back on, because clearly we love a natter.
I'm so sorry if I ranted on or rambled on.
You have not. I've loved absolutely every second of it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.